Welcome back. Here with this special conversation, I am talking to Amit Mantri of 2.2 Capital. Now, Amit, I must say that these tweets that you put out on tips for a fraudster, how to defraud shareholders, it's all sarcasm. Essentially, these are, Amit's way of saying that these are the red flags that you should be wary of. Some of them are very, very caustic, and I just want to sort of go through them. You advise, this is the advice, if you want to set up your own company and defraud people of shareholder money, how do you do it? So Amit says, have a good story to catch investors' attention. Something like the only listed XYZ company in India, because it's a great branding exercise. Draw analogies to the likes of D-Mart or other businesses, maybe the next page industries, again, to keep the branding intact. Give aggressive guidance, that's obviously the basics. Start making up numbers. Only revenue and PAT matters. Don't worry about the balance sheet because no one looks at balance sheets in a bull market. That's saying a lot, Amit. And that kind of makes me a little sad as well because is it really as bad out there? And are we in that kind of a bull market already?
No, so that's been the market over the last few years actually. So in fact, we have actually suspended belief in many of the companies wherein we are fine with companies reporting whatever earnings they are reporting. As long as there's 50% growth year on year, it doesn't matter to us whether the balance sheet is in a complete mess, that the company is not collecting on its receivables, that there is inventory that's stuck, and that there are other red flags in the balance sheet. So I think most investors are extremely focused onto the P&L side of things. That's not ideal, but I think that's how the market has been over the last few years pretty much, in the small and mid-cap space pretty much.
Yeah. Then you go on to say in the tweets again that again, advice to someone who wants to set up a company to defraud shareholders. This is all with sarcasm. I'm repeating that. It's just a way to let people understand perhaps the kind of games that go on out there. Raise large amounts of debt from PSU Banks to fund fictitious capex, gold-plate the capex to siphon out funds. No one questions absurdly low salaries or even purchases of computers worth 20 lakh rupees per employee. I'm guessing this came from research somewhere. You did come across companies that had ascribed a value of 20 lakh rupees per employee for computer expenses.
Yeah. So, and it's one of the recent blow-ups that has happened in this
Can you tell us the name?
So,
since it's already public, I'm guessing now.
So, I don't know if you look at Vakrangi's capex that they have done in computers. I think over 2-year period, they ended up spending almost 400 crores in terms of computers. And the company had 700 employees. So 700 employees, 400 crores in computers, that's too high a number. And for us, that doesn't add up really. What kind of computers are these? Are these gold-plated computers? Even the MacBook highest end Apple product only costs 1.5 lakhs maybe. And here we was a company spending much more on computers per employee. Though we tend to find a lot of such red flags in a lot of companies, and it's when you start seeing multiple issues with the company, there's aggressive guidance that's happening, companies diluting capital every couple of years, management is not able to explain why certain, for example, there is cash on the books, but it's not generating interest income. Why is that the case? Why aren't you putting it in some high-yielding FDs at least?
Or there's cash on the books and debt is not being repaid, which was the case with Kitex. I think that was one of the flags that you pointed.
That was one of the cases. And we keep seeing such instances. And we are surprised that not enough attention is paid to these basic red flags. So in fact, I'm not sure it was clearly sarcasm, but it was also out of frustration that we were writing it because these are two obvious things that people are not picking up.
How pervasive is the rot? Because the kind of market that we're in the midst of, we have just come on the back of a year which gave us 45% returns at an index level, the Midcap index. How do you sum up that situation in the real world, in the real sense?
Yes, so I'm not trying to be a scaremonger here. The problem does exist. In fact, I think we've only touched the tip of the iceberg so far. And there are a large number of companies which are not operating their business to generate value for shareholders, but to defraud them. And especially in the last few years, the main rally has happened in the small and mid-cap space. That's where people have seen their money doubling, quadrupling, multiple excess on their capital. And that's where I think the biggest problems also exist because people have, for now at least, said that all these red flags, all these governance issues, they don't really matter.
Now, I'll finally come down to the role of auditors. We've already discussed that because that's how the bubble burst in case of Manpasand. What would you say? Because people are still left high and dry. Nobody knows the real reasons because of lack of perhaps enough transparency disclosures. What would you like to say, let's say, to either the Ministry of Corporate Affairs or the ICAI, so that we are not left in a black hole when an auditor resigns?
No, that's absolutely a fair point. I think the fact that you're resigning without giving adequate information of why you're resigning. I think in the case of Deloitte, we had them saying significant information was not provided. That's not enough for statement. If you're, after 8 years, if you're resigning from a company where you have been auditing without any qualifications in the prior years, you need to provide more reasons than that. And I think that's what the ICAI and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs needs to put down more regulations in what are the disclosure standards that need to be there. In the case of PwC resigning with Vakrangi, there actually we had much more reasons. They had given a fair bit of detail in terms of why they were quitting, what information they didn't get. That's a much better way to resign than what has happened in this case.
Well, it's been a good first meeting, Amit, and I hope we will keep hearing more of you, and we will look forward to more of your writings as well. Thank you for taking out the time today. That's it on this special conversation. Thank you for watching.